this. I wrote something down because one thing after watching your interview with TMZ and with Nick Fuentes, your discussion with him, was how white nationalism used to be more of an intellectual movement. And like hearing you speak, you're very articulate, you're a thoughtful person, and you're a lot better because I feel like a lot of these white nationalists, they muddy the waters with their rhetoric. And so I just wrote this out and then I've got a couple questions at the end. So, as I said, white nationalism went from having a more articulate and intellectual leaders with Dr. David Duke, Richard Spencer, Jared Taylor, to brown mystery meat reactionaries and rage baiters like the Handsome Truth, the Gypsy Crusader, and Nick Fuentes to a lesser degree, who think calling children online the N-word is going to save the white race. One thing I've noticed about these people, that they come from a collective ethnic group that are far more problematic than FBAs, Foundational Black Americans. Nick and the Handsome Truth are Hispanic and both Mexican. Mexico has 8 out of the top 10 highest homicide cities in the world. Latin America constitutes only 8% of the world's population, yet 33% of global intentional homicides, which is 1350 on a global scale. For the Gypsy Crusader, they are vastly overrepresented in every country in the prison system in Europe. Gypsies are 0.1% of the UK population, but 5% of inmates, 22% of juveniles locked up. In Finland, they are only 0.2% of the population, yet 5% of prisoners. In Bulgaria, 5 to 10% of the population, 50% of inmates. This is the same all across Europe. So my questions are, why has white nationalism allowed itself to be co-opted by a bunch of dysgenic brown people? And do you think that FBAs are more American and integral to the land with their many contributions, such as 50,000 patents, HBUs, cultural exports of the arts, and their history as a foundational people, than some swarthy white immigrant whose family arrived 50 years ago? So those are my questions for you, because I feel like a lot of the rhetoric online is from people that aren't really American. You know, FBAs are more American than someone like Nick Fuentes or the Gypsy Crusader. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Wow. That's quite the loaded question. I mean, I think most Mexicans are actually good people. I think they shouldn't migrate here illegally, and I'd prefer that we cut down the level of legal immigration. I do think that traditional Black Americans are more a part of the history of our country. I think basically we have two parallel nations, genuine nations, true ethnicities that developed in parallel: Black Americans and white Americans. And neither of our communities are represented anywhere else in the world except as expats. So this is the homeland of Black Americans, it's the homeland of white Americans. Everyone else, for the time being, is effectively guests. After a few
The
generations,
FBA
maybe.
community call them tethers. Do you know what? Have you heard of that term before?
No.
So they kind of tether onto an identity that they're not a part of. And I've noticed the same because I'm a foundational white Australian. You know, my family's Celtic. We were there since the first fleet. And so we built the country. And then you get these Swavi Italians and Greeks. We call them wogs. And they come over and they fly their stupid little flag and they think they're better than the foundational ethnic Australians. And I've noticed this similar thing with Nick Fuentes. He's spoken down on Anglos and core foundational people, foundational white Americans. So are you a foundational white American or are you a tether?
I have ancestors going back to the founding of the country. I am foundational American. My Norwegian side, where my last name comes from, we got here towards the beginning of the 20th century, but that's only a quarter of my ancestry. And I would say anything, prior to 1965, you could be considered foundational in some sense.